The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. It's the West Stand, out on a Monday and Friday across the season generally, in its debut season, but moving things around for promotion. This one is out on Friday. It's available in YouTube and your podcast app. Guests from across the world of promoted Premier League, Leeds United, no less. I'm Dan Moylan. With me is Michael Normanson.
Hello there.
And with me is NordVPN.
Oh, whereabouts?
Just
in your heart.
there.
In your heart.
Bryn just said, we were just remarking before we started rolling, Bryn said, I could probably do that read for you now.
But he's refused.
Yeah. Said it's beneath me, that.
Not beneath me, though, is it?
No.
No.
Absolutely
You want it on 10 devices?
Yeah.
NordVPN.
How quick is it, Michael?
The quickest.
In the whole world?
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Almost certainly.
What does it let you do? What's the point of a VPN?
You can jump around geolocations to unlock geo-block content. You can browse Wi-Fi securely if you're on a public network.
That was really smooth. He was good then, Bryn, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it could be smoother. Anything else?
Dan?
30-day money-back
Over to
guarantee.
you. Good, that as well.
Yes.
Where can you get this offer?
On the internet. NordVPN.com/TSB, an additional 4 months on top of your discounted 2-year plan. And the link is in the episode description box. And our guest for today, then, to introduce him formally, it's from LUTV and Wrexham fan.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't like to mention that.
No.
I get in trouble if I mention that on here.
Right. Well, it's kind of the reason why we brought you on, because you've just turned into Mr. Promotion. Is it 5 promotions in
a week?
Sorry, 3 promotions. Hang on. One, you've had 3. We've had 2. That's 5 promotions in about 5 or 6 years you've had now?
Well, 3 and 3 for Wrexham, and so 2 in 6 for Leeds, isn't it? Yeah.
It's quite a lot. It's not a bad record, as it goes.
That's pretty good. It's unprecedented. It will never happen again. I will confidently predict I will never have a week like the last week of football watching that I have just had again. That's it.
There's just a very low level croak in your voice I can hear.
Yeah.
I think we're all carrying a little bit of it.
I'm on the cusp here, and the fact that there's only one more game to go is not a bad thing from that perspective.
So let's rewind to. Should we go back to Stoke? Or is it even worth going back to Good Friday here?
I want to go back to Luton
and Oxford. Right? No. What's the point in raking over the coals, Bryn? Come on.
So here I was sitting here telling everyone to be calm. It's okay. It is actually a good point. And the manager,
as we said at the time,
and as the manager said, 100% guaranteed Leeds United will end up in the Premier League. And I said that, and I was trying to help, and it was just based on all the things that I'd absorbed and that I'd seen, and Leeds, we'd already discussed, Leeds were better than everybody else. And actually, there was more chance of maybe others wobbling and wavering, as we've subsequently seen. And so there you go. I'll put it out there. Stay calm, everybody. It'll be okay.
And you were right. Well done. Grow up. We all knew. I think the point is we all knew all the things like you were saying logically were true, and Dean did the same as well. It was like the championship's going to championship, and it always does. But you convince yourself, you tell yourself stories, as you were sort of saying about how you do this week, Michael, that this will be the one that bucks the trend because it's Leeds United and because that's how we do it, and we do things the hard way. And actually, piece of piss, wasn't it, in the end?
I will say, on the other side of this, we've been saying Burnley are due a defeat since November, and they just
still not,
and they just keep winning. So it's been a remarkable end, you've got to say. Like the pace that us and Burnley have managed to go at for this length of time.
The stats are absolutely ridiculous for this championship season. Again, you'd always hope it'll never be done again, because if it is done again, then the 3 down from the Premier League and the 2 up from the championship is definitely a bad thing, because the competitive nature of the competitions has been impacted. But the stats are fantastic for the 2 teams, and for Burnley to have lost at this stage just 2 games all season is ridiculous. And the tiny number of goals they've conceded along the way as well. Yeah. And then
we'd be on the cusp of breaking records in that regard as well, had they not conceded so few. Like, we're really, really low.
Well, yeah, so Leeds' numbers are brilliant on that basis, and theirs are even beyond that. The goal scoring thing for Leeds is truly impressive, obviously, here. So it's been a one-off season. It's almost been a 2-off, because last year wasn't bad, by the way. And and what is it? 3 home defeats across 2 seasons now.
Yeah.
3 home defeats.
I fully expect that to roll into next season. Although you do wonder it's a question for next season. Let's continue to bask in all this, but whether the home record hopefully is something that we can rely on. I hope to help try and keep us up next year.
Yeah,
it's because it's become a fortress in the last couple of years, and I feel like the way the crowd interacts with the team has changed a little bit.
Well, if you want to see how momentum helps, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to mention Wrexham.
They're dropping the W bomb again.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, because 3 promotions in 3 seasons. So you've climbed from National League to Championship level in that short space of time. And one of the major factors there is that thing around momentum, is that you've built a group of players who get used to winning games, and they develop a method, and they've certainly done that this season at Wrexham. They develop a method to ensure that they don't lose games, and secondly, that they then win games. And they believe that will be the case because the method has worked previously, and that momentum element to it's something that I would really hope and expect that Leeds United can take into those first weeks of a new Premier League season. When you want to put a few points on the board, just to get your toehold in there nice and early.
It's that first half of the season that's crucial, isn't it? Again, I don't want to jump ahead too much because I'm still having a jolly nice time.
Let's just enjoy the stuff that's just happened.
So with reference to believing and Leeds United, when did you feel like you knew? I mean, looking back on it now, I felt like the Oxford one was possibly the most attritional, difficult one. I think to come out of that with the win, it's just started to build confidence, and the confidence has almost been exponential from that point.
I'd go Middlesbrough. The away win at Middlesbrough was a one where everybody was there was the dig-in element with that one. I mean, I think I was talking ahead of that last time I was in here, wasn't I? And that was the one where they came through. I mean, they won it relatively comfortably. The last 10 minutes or so was a bit hairy, but they came through that one. And at the point at which they were back in the groove from that basis, the key bit being not conceding goals. When they were back in the groove with that, then I felt that they were in a really good place then.
And what was it like down at Oxford then?
It was
a late Good Friday.
Yeah, it was a long day, and it was an interesting evening from the perspective that we watched a game that was, the Sky commentator remarked to me in the aftermath, I don't know, something along the lines of, that wasn't very good, was it? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, not a lot happened there, did it? I said, I'm not here for things to happen. We're not here for that. We're not here for that. You might be, but we're not. We're here to see what we saw, which is for Leeds to score a goal, take control of the game, and then win the game. That's it. That's all we require from this event. And so whether your viewers got what they require, I don't know. I don't really care. Our people got what we wanted. And at the end of the game, Tony and I, there was a big thing with the lift going on at Oxford. There was a lift up and down, and we were warned before the game it might get stuck, and it didn't. But there was a warning. And then we coming down the lift with a couple of 2 or 3 sort of fairly elderly Oxford United fans, one of whom was properly indignant about what the referee won you that game. He kept shouting at me. And at first I thought he was joking, and then I realised, no, he's actually quite serious. He's very angry. And then there's another guy, an older guy on the door with like a walking stick with him, who tried to keep Tony out the lift because he said we were going to be overloaded. And so it was all, the pair of us were looking at each other kind of a little quizzically, because we were being sort of harangued by these elderly Oxford United, more elderly Oxford United fans who seemed really unhappy about what they just witnessed.
We noticed that when we were watching it, there was quite a bit of upset in the crowd, but it was mainly just for correct decisions.
It's one of those where if you go away and watch it back, you go, actually, yeah, you probably got most of it right. I know it felt like he was possibly favouring us a bit because he was blowing up for a lot of free kicks and things like that, but most of them were just
there was no big decision in that game, and we've seen some big wrong calls, through the course of this season.
Middlesbrough being the perfect case,
a really good example. So there was nothing like that. It was kind of pretty petty, but it was that level of anger was quite amusing. The great thing is in those situations where you can just kind of smile and chuckle and then walk away, 3 points in the bag kind of thing.
What was the atmosphere like around sort of the coaching staff, the players at that point post?
Well, that's when I think Middlesbrough was similar as well, because there's a bit more high-fiving goes on at the end of those, and there's a bit more in the tunnel that you see where people are you can tell with those guys, you know, when they know that something good is happening, when the vibe is right on it again, and the players are on it, and the coaching staff see that, and everybody, it's that intensity even amidst those who do all the different jobs that are done behind the scenes on a match day for Leeds United. You encounter that, and every time they get through a game and come out with a win, then it increases. And at the point of Oxford, I think anybody you asked within the group would say, don't worry, we're going to get promoted. This is not a problem now.
It was coming off the back of that amazing game against Preston as well, which is pretty much the only point during the running where there have been simultaneous games. Speaking of Sky, the way they keep moving everything, I've hated it basically. The way they've tried to engineer, the way they've structured the end of this season has been painful. But that was the game where we got to see the Plymouth 2, Sheffield United 1 score coming in as we were, well, sort of grinding out and sort of cruising to a win. It only felt like a grind because we knew how much was on it. But that was a great.
I was going to say we could
great
equally. We could have been looking at 3 back-to-back 6-0s. You know,
yeah.
Quite.
We absolutely battered. I mean, you get Pirro turning up, you know, a couple of weeks later, and everything he touches goes in. That Preston game was just the complete reverse, wasn't it? You think you watch it on another day, he gets at least 2 of these, but it just wouldn't go. But that for me was when this season really like kicked into life, and everyone was like, yeah, this is on again.
That's when the Elland Road crackle arrived.
Yeah. I mean, and it was a game that you looked at it and Preston at home is a game you win, isn't it? So there was, you were going to predict that was going to be the outcome. It's just that the journey to getting to the outcome was a little more exciting, perhaps, than people were anticipating. But, you know, all the better for it, frankly.
And so from a late finish against Oxford, making your way back across Easter
I actually came back the next day, so it was like a Saturday. I didn't get home till about 3:00 on Saturday afternoon.
Right. So you've not got much time between that and turning it around to.
Well, that's what I see with the players. You know, Daniel complains about the scheduling, and genuinely, I've had games, particularly this season. I think this season more than any other, when you feel that the turnaround with the week with 2 aways, either the bookend Portsmouth and then QPR the other end of it, and the home game in the middle. Actually genuinely really tired at the end of that week. You know, I was kind of, and I was commentating the other week. I think it was Preston. It was Preston. And by the end of the game, I got cramp in my left thigh while we were sitting on the gantry, and had to kind of limp down to the dressing room. You know, so it was like I needed Tony to do that stretchy thing where I've got my leg in the air and he's like pushing back on it while we're still trying to commentate on the game. But I got cramp during the game. Yeah. And I think it's taken a physical toll this season on that basis. Yeah. I've got calf strain that I got when I went out from a pre-match run the other day. So when I was chasing the cameraman across the pitch the other night, and he's racing after the players going to celebrate, you know, in front of the Kop and all the rest of it, I'm hobbling along behind him. If you can see any pictures, trying to keep up with him, tied to him by a microphone cable.
That's just provoked a memory. Did you notice at the end of that game, and we didn't touch on it on the match ball or in the aftermath of it, that before the referee had even blown the full-time whistle, there was a steward from the East Stand in front of me he was nearly at the centre circle.
Oh, I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
I thought there was a pitch invader.
Yes,
and I was looking around the pitch.
Exactly.
And there was no pitch invader.
Yeah, I saw him because he caught my vision, because obviously you've got Stoke, not Stoke, who have we just played?
Bristol
in black. Stoke in black as well. But Bristol in black, wearing white. And I said, this sort of blue sprite just in my corner of my vision, like moving across the pitch. I was like, what's going on there? And I looked up, I said, that's a steward. But the game's, he's not blown up yet. Surely I'm going to turn my head slightly to the left now and see a naked person or a protester or something like that. And none of it. I was like, oh, he's just gone for it.
He's quick off the mark, him.
Yeah.
Try and force the referee's hand. Not that there was much tension at that point. It's
no. But yeah,
he's the only steward to actually launch a pitch invasion.
I tell you what, it must
could have had stewards on to come and take the steward off.
It must be. He touched did Farker, didn't he, on the lack of sleep post Oxford? And I mean, I know it's like for us as fans, and presumably you have the same thing as well, Bryn. The ability to decompress after a game is quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that night we stayed overnight right by the stadium. There's a hotel, so we stayed there. So unusually for these trips, we actually got to go and have a drink after the game. So Tony and I were both in there. So we went and sat and had a chat, and John Newsom arrived, and the Beeb lads were there as well. So, and there was quite a few fans in there, obviously. So we were chatting with a lot of people till about probably, I don't know, midnight, and then I called it a day. but then just lay in bed, kind of going through it all again till probably 1:30, and then was awake by 7.
Yeah.
And that's fairly standard. So I actually said that to John Newsom on the course. I said, will you be able to sleep tonight? Because I won't, or I'll wake up about 5 a.m., which is another thing that happens. And he said, as a player, I could never sleep after a game. So I was asking him because I wanted to know how long the players, having arrived back in Leeds, because they flew back from Oxford and they had a very strict flight time back from Oxford. So they had to be away. We were told before the game they had to be away quickly after the game. So everything needed to be done sort of fairly speedily.
Is that because of the flights into Leeds Bradford at night, or is it?
I think so, but also because they'd actually flown into Oxford. They'd found some sort of airstrip in Oxford, I think, that they could fly to. So I think there was a question over how long that was going to be available to them as well. So they were on a strict, quick turnaround time. So they were going to get back home probably at 2 a.m. rather than at 4 a.m. or whatever. But do you arrive back home and put your head on the pillow and go straight off to sleep?
No,
I doubt you do. No. So the rest period thing in terms of that cycle of fixtures, I genuinely do think it is significant.
Yeah,
because you just find yourself, I got back from Oxford at 3:00 in the afternoon on the Saturday, and basically I've got the prep to do for the game on the Monday. So Sunday is about that, and you've got one day in between, really, realistically.
Yeah. So then we played Stoke. just trying to unpack it all now, because it has just been one big sort of sawtooth adrenaline dump. Try and sleep, and I've gone from not being able to sleep because of kind of the anxiety and the nerves. I'd one really good night's sleep after the promotion was confirmed, but it's gone the other way now, and I'm giddy.
See, I think from the Oxford, generally speaking, Friday, Monday, I think is a horrible turnaround, and I feel it's too close together. But I was so ready for it. I was ready to play every game back to back at that point, because we could touch the promotion. I was like, let's just get this done. We're so close to it.
I think the players were as well, because they knew, and at the point that they know, it's like this week when. I mean, I don't think they're not like the old days. I don't think they're a real group of kind of on the lash from the minute that final whistle went at Burnley until an hour before kickoff in the last game. I don't think that's the way it is anyway. In general, in the game these days, they're way too professional, if that's the right phrase for that.
Although the gap probably did help a tiny bit in terms of recovery.
Yeah,
because Sheffield United played on the Friday, didn't they?
That's right. So
it was, but then we were saying, Burnley, they'll be tired from celebrating, and they went and won. Absolutely battered QPR, didn't they? Because Leeds had the bit between the teeth, and there was the eye on the prize still. They actually genuinely came into the last game with that similar level of intensity, because although the required outcome has changed now, the desire to get to that point is every bit as strong, if actually not a bit stronger now. And I think that's the case again ahead of this next one. So what I don't expect is that they're all kind of continuing the celebrations. Every interview we've done with Ethan Ampadu in the last 2 or 3 games, he's been saying, it's not done yet though. We want to win the title. That's what it's all about. Before and after match. He said it on the pitch the other night as well. It was great, brilliant, because you're already thinking this guy's going to be manager of Wales in 15 years' time, isn't he? But so his messaging, I keep banging on about the old messaging. His messaging has been leadership messaging.
Yeah.
And
we've probably parted ways a little bit in terms of the playing squad and what the fans have been able to do this week, and that we've just been able to lean into it and feel nice and just feel that sense of relief. For them, I suppose, it's about maintaining focus and staying in that groove to get the actual job done and get the whole thing over the line.
That's absolutely it. And every single interview post-match, that was referenced on whenever it was, Monday night. Yeah. So yes, you've definitely got that. It's tangible stuff like that when you're around a group of players, when they've got something that they are very much collectively focused on, and when they've also got a collective sense that they can definitely get to this place. They ooze it, and that's the place that Leeds have got themselves into ever since the Luton game.
Yeah.
Since that match. So Guy Lavogie in the aftermatch interview, I'm not sure it actually went out, because I think we might have lost the stream or something on Monday night. But I did an interview with Guy Lavogie, and he referenced Daniel Farke saying, at Luton, the manager said we were 100% getting the Premier League, and that's been very important to us. And I told you, that's where the message was being aimed.
I'm not interested in you being right, Bryn. I'm interested in basking in my own anxieties.
I can't get away from it. He was making the point, the message was being aimed at the group of players. Telling them, come on, fellas, stay focused. We've got this.
I remember you saying that on the show, and I'm sure it went down very, very well externally, because you saying just before we started recording, I dipped into the comments and I was like, don't go into the comments, Bryn. The comments are terrifying.
The comments wasn't always a great place for me after the Luton game, because funnily enough, you can actually read comments on YouTube. I do wonder, do people actually put the two things together, that you might say something really horrible about me and I might actually read it as well?
Yeah.
People, people go mad though and lash out at stuff when things aren't going well. People get annoyed.
They blame you.
Do they?
People get annoyed with whatever and we're like, and even a step further away, they'll be like, well, it's because you said this. It's like, I had no relevance. What we said a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
I haven't influenced any of this.
Yeah, people get cross.
It's looking for somewhere to apportion blame, isn't it, or to direct their annoyance.
But
which I understand.
Which is quite.
And also, you do this, and you put yourself up to be shot down. I completely accept that. Yeah.
Ditto. I've had a lifetime of it, but and it's the short term nature of it now. Is this week, in fact, this day, even maybe this hour, I'm absolutely furious about this, and I'm going to tell everybody that I'm really, really furious about this. And then a day later, another 3 points on the board. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's all good.
You're no longer a club shill. You're a soothsayer, a voice of reason.
There we go. Can I have that on a T-shirt? Can you do that for me?
Not a club shill.
Soothsayer, voice of reason.
So what was that? What was that Easter Monday like? So this is the day that promotion is confirmed, the Stoke 6-0. From a commentary point of view, you must have been having the time of your life there.
Yeah,
I have listened to it, but it's all kind of blended into one.
Because there was the anxiety, inevitably there was the anxiety pre-match, there is a doubt here. They downstairs, I don't think they have the doubt. And the pros, you'll say to them, they'll look at it now, there's no problem. It's the best team we could be playing in these circumstances is Stoke City. But there's still a doubt. And then doubt is dispelled as quickly as those 2 goals inside whatever it was, 10 minutes or whatever, and then 3 goals and then 4 goals. And at that point you think, this is ridiculous now, because it's actually not in the script, is it? Because everyone's so wrapped up in the Leedsy thing and all the rest of it.
Yeah. And
Leeds won't do it like this, and and then you look at it and you go, they could get another 7 or 8 here.
Yeah.
And now, now actually for the first time in a long time, everybody can just start to enjoy it a little bit now.
I mean, we saw you on the steps with the players after Burnley had beaten Sheffield United. So presumably you stuck around in the club and just watched it there. And
that was...
Did some dancing? I saw you doing some dancing.
You were dancing.
Was much in the comments about the dancing?
No, there were a couple of comments about it. Well, they've created a GIF out of it at LUTV as well, which is very good of them. Thanks, guys. Because it looks, to me, worryingly reminiscent of the Donald Trump dancing gif in terms of
big hero yells. You were saying off air.
I'm definitely not going down that route. So that thing happened, but it was interesting because at the end of the game, control yourself. At the end of the game, we were meant to watch the Burnley game because we were then coming back on to do more LUTV stuff later on, which was great because that was. It was quite an ambitious project to do all the coverage that we did, and it was kind of a new. We haven't done it before, not since I've been doing it, so I don't think they've done it before. But it was exciting to be involved in a project of that kind of significance, where you go, right, let's see if we can do this, because Sky Sports can do it because they can throw an army of people at it, and they've got all the technology and all the cables and people to do all those jobs. But for an operation like LUTV, which is much, much smaller, it's more of a challenge. So everyone had agreed really good plan had been put in place by the production guys, and so we wanted it all to work, and for it all to work, it actually needed the result to be the way that the result was, needed to be. So we were delegated with different positions to wait at to watch the game. I actually got chucked out of the first place that I was watching the match because they wanted it cleared for the players to come in. So even though I was due to be in there with the players later on, I still couldn't wait in there when they arrived. So I was a bit of a nomad wandering around the stadium trying to find a screen to watch it on. So watched it upstairs in the Norman Hunter suite, and that was nice because all the Sue and Michael and Claire and all the Hunter family were all in there, and I haven't seen them for a while, so we had a good chat.
And obviously used to be your co-commentator.
Norman was my co-commentator, and a very, very, very dear friend who I miss greatly. So saw all of them. It was a good place, I guess, symbolically to watch the game from. And Tony was there, and some of the other lads. Andy Cousins and people like that. So it was a nice little group of people there to have a chat with and watch. But then we still had the job to do. And so we had to depart with 15 minutes remaining to actually go to where I'd been previously to go and watch the final stages of the Burnley Sheffield, because we were only allowed in the room with kind of 10 minutes to go. Because there is a problem with this stuff. If you look like you're already celebrating something that hasn't yet happened, the optics, if it all suddenly blows back and Sheffield United scored 2 in the last 2 minutes, you're in a kind of Wilder-esque situation potentially in terms of what you've put out there about yourself.
Your former pupil.
My former pupil. I wish I'd never mentioned that on here. Anyway, so that bit was, so we were all set up, and technically we were, I think, you check everything's working, and then you just wait. And for the inevitable, I've been in these kind of situations before. It's mayhem because everything is going off around you, and there's drink being sprayed around.
Drinks,
well, that's exactly. Cameras, plug sockets, champagne bottle directly at, those kinds of things. Lens, champagne bottle at the lens, that camera's out of action because you can't get champagne off a lens quickly. So all you're on edge about all that stuff. The place was packed. Quite a lot of the high-ups, the Leeds United high-ups were there as well watching. And then the players started celebrating even before the final whistle had gone. And at that point, we were up and running kind of thing, because with 2 minutes to go, it was a done deal. And then it was just madness for the next 10, 15 minutes or so, and trying to hear cue in the headphone. You'll know how important it is that you get that. So you can see if you watch the coverage back, you can see me trying to work out when they because I can't hear anything. Yeah. So those are the kind of the delays before we start talking, doing interviews and stuff. So you do all that bit, but that's where you want to be. Yeah. Oh, that is where you want to be, because that's things happening. This is live. It's mad. People are so happy, joyous, fantastic. That's where you want to be when you're doing broadcasting. That's where you want to be.
Right. I watched all of that back the next day, just grinning.
I watched it back, and I don't always do that, but I did watch it back for 2 reasons. I wanted to see how it looked technically and sounded technically, because I want to see how well it worked, and I think it worked really well. But also, I wanted to see. I just wanted to watch it again, because it was a great laugh doing it.
I bumped into Tom Kerwin later on that night, and he looked haunted, like a man ready to.
Well, it is really. I mean, if you're the one who's put your hand up in the meeting and said, "I think we can do this," then it's all on you. Then, like, I'm just the guy there. I'll do my bit because I've done it. I've done it lots of times before, so I'll do my bit. I think I'll be okay with that, generally speaking. And the guy doing the camera bit will do his bit, but he is the one above it all who needs everybody to do their bit. And the thing I've always loved about the live broadcasting bit is that it is a team game. So if one person's off their game, then that actually impacts what happens with everybody. So you need everybody on it, and everybody was on. The people in the guys in the studio, Emma and the guests in the studio, really good, because filling in those gaps, that can be quite difficult, because you don't know what's happening and how quickly you're going to get something to go, and players appeared now. So all the elements they took on a really big challenge in doing that, and it all fell beautifully into place. And some of the footage, I think, is really good from the stuff that came out of it. Players were great. Players are great. Really good bunch of players. I have great admiration for them as a group of young men.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the feeling across this season is they always felt more transactional. That's a word we've used quite a lot, and perhaps there wouldn't be the same emotion attached to it as 5 years ago. However, I think because we've seen them all partying, and we've had the chance to party ourselves and create these memories and be there and see it all, it's really bonded me to them as a squad. I've got a real emotional attachment to them now.
And like that, the other night it's one of the all-time best experiences in Elland Road. Was that? Yeah. Nothing on the line for it. It was done.
Yeah.
But the whole feeling of it was it was
a carnival.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Like I loved it start to finish from going in. There was, because maybe it's weird because I think we always imagine there'll be stress involved in these things, and maybe we sort of think we need it, but that was actually stress free, and I loved it start to finish. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
I was going to say I
didn't want to leave.
I went into Elland Road early, which I never rock up at like 45 minutes before kickoff, but I did. I got in there at 1:15 and just went and stood by my seat, just stood in front of it, just watched Elland Road gradually fill up. Obviously, the PA wasn't working, which was a little bit disconcerting and confusing because you expect the same sights and sounds to be there. But it's actually quite nice that it wasn't, because you just chat and all the songs cut through and all that sort of stuff. And I know it came back on later on, but yeah, I'm absolutely with you. I wanted that night to go on forever, and it's a similar feeling to the Stoke game, but the Stoke game still had that jeopardy attached to it.
Yeah, and the Preston game had even more. Like I felt probably the most emotional I felt maybe at the end of the Preston game. We came back in here and we both said, like, when they're playing the old, going through like the old songs at the end, we were both kind of almost in tears at them, trying to sing them, and it was a bit. I wouldn't have liked to hear an isolated mic of me singing it, because it might have been a bit.
Dear God!
And the last one's crying. It might have been a bit croaky at that point, but it's just been good time after good time, hasn't it? And I can't handle it.
There's sort of a Venn diagram between the Preston game and then the Stoke game overlaps it, and then the Bristol game overlaps that as well. And it's kind of just been a journey from point A to point B, but through an increasing amount of joy and removal of stress.
That's the unleadsy bit, isn't it? Really, that you've actually got to enjoy the thing you wanted to enjoy in a relatively straightforward manner, and it was beautiful. And I mean, they dressed the set brilliantly the other night as well. A pal of mine, long-term pal of mine, had come up from the southeast to watch the game, and I saw him before the match, and he was in an hour before kickoff or something mad like that. What are you doing here now? But he was also wearing a Leeds United shirt, and he'll know who I'm talking about when he hears this, because he listens to this. And he was wearing the yellow Leeds United shirt. Now he's a top dresser, this guy. He loves his clothes and always has done. So he's the Penfield guy. So he was there in his Leeds United shirt, and I've never seen him wearing a football shirt before.
Yeah.
Especially not to go to a game, but I've never seen him wearing a football shirt before. So he had come dressed for the occasion.
It was almost like everybody was putting on their costume for the night, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I wore a square ball t-shirt because I'm, a commercial whore and I want to sell them. But I did toy with putting on. I was going to put on my white Strongbow shirt, is the one that I thought about. But then I realised it was in the loft. It's been vacuum sealed into a bag and put in the loft. I'm not getting the ladders down. I'll just wear one of our t-shirts. But yeah, it felt like everybody. It was like putting your togs on and going to the theatre. I'm going to put my best football togs on and go to the game.
And that's why the place looked amazing. I mean, I couldn't, and we were talking about it in commentary in the second half, I could not picture another stadium that could look like that. In the even in, there's lots of kind of work goes into these things these days to make it look something, but you couldn't have got, you just, even with the scarves, which look great, but the whole place just looked fantastic. It was quite a sight and
quite a sound.
Oh, it's probably the first. I was going to say, did you struggle with it? Absolutely, genuinely, first time struggled with the commentary to hear each other.
Right,
and we made reference to it because I could see his lips moving, but I wasn't entirely sure what words were coming out with Tony. And he's always cranked up the max anyway with the headphone levels. And there was no further for him to go, but we actually genuinely struggled because it was so loud.
Yeah, so that's one of the few things that didn't come across from watching it on the TV. You could hear the songs constantly in the background, but that's just one of the consistently loudest I've ever heard Elland Road on a consistent basis. I've heard it loud before.
Yeah, like the Stoke game was the second half. I think people almost didn't know what to do, and I think mentally everyone had moved on to.
Everyone had exhaled,
and everyone was like, "Shit, right, Burnley next, finish this one. We want to see the next. We want to see the next bit, so we can do the promotion." That was only one chapter,
wasn't it, in terms of the day? Whereas day playing out,
the other night was just songs start to finish. And we talked about on the match ball, didn't we? The second half was running through the song bucket, singing about Don Matteo and Lucas Ranabie,
that's right. Gary Speed and
Gary Speed, like just going through them all. I was like, oh, this is fun. We're just like having a laugh now.
Football watching as fun.
Yeah,
he'll never catch on.
Who knew?
But I suppose when you are mired in all that anxiety, all the stuff that we poured out post Swansea and post Luton was because you want
that.
Just this day that is so elusive and so rare. We wanted a perfect day, and football rarely delivers perfect days. It will often deliver you good days, really good days, but that was perfect. Everything about it was everything. It was the absolute antithesis of those days racked by anxiety. It was the polar opposite.
And I had one of those on Monday, and then I had another of those the following Saturday. 2 in 5 days. How about that?
Because I messaged you. You were in the pub when you were in Wrexham.
Yeah, of course.
And I just said, good luck today, and enjoy it. And what was it next time? I'm exhausted already. Just thinking about it.
Well, it was the flip scenario, because the key game in the Wrexham thing was before it, and so the whole place was rammed with people watching that one again. Scheduling things, thanks guys, was with watching the Leyton Orient Wycombe game, and then on the outcome of that, you knew now that if Wrexham won this one, definitely promoted. And so from the point at which the full-time whistle went in the Leyton Orient Wycombe game, so the bar, absolutely packed. Every bar in the middle of town was absolutely packed with people watching it. Then the songs begin, but that piles the pressure on, because that thing you've just been talking about, that perfect place that you want to arrive at, is now absolutely within touching distance. There's no question that you know what the sums are here. 3 points, guaranteed promotion. So you're now so close, and you're now heading towards a stadium which could and should provide that. But the doubt remains. And then, just like Leeds, Wrexham scored 2 in the space of 3 minutes in the first half, and a little bit of the anxiety began to ebb. Not totally, not there yet.
It's not at 2, is it? It's not at 2.
No,
it's the 3.
The 3 was on 80 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, that was absolute trigger point, light switch. 3, that's it. It's done. And so the last 10 minutes were really good fun.
Yeah.
But so 2 in 5. I'm getting quite emotional thinking about it.
How do you even...
do you know what? I'm retiring. I'm retiring from football watching.
I said on the shows this week, I don't think I've got the emotional capacity to do what we did, and then to go away and watch your other team, your proper team, then do it again. It's just, I know I'm really close now to a crash. I think the adrenaline at some point, post Plymouth, post parade, it'll start to ebb away, and a full time in the Wrexham game. I don't know how you do it.
So I've started watching Wrexham in '79 when they were in the second division, which was their only ever previous spell in the second division. Only did 4 years there as well. So I've seen them play at that level in the past, but I didn't see them get to that level because that was the season before. And at full time, I was actually, I probably done it, or emotionally, I wasn't flat. I was quite quiet.
Yeah.
I just watched because there was all the pitch invasion and all the rest of it. And then the second place trophy was presented.
We don't want it.
Yeah, what is that? And so we had to wait for all the hoo-ha with building a platform for it, all the stuff you have to do now. And they had to clear the pitch as well. So there was quite a big gap at the end of the game. So there was the initial euphoria at full time. And then I just got quite quiet and kind of drifted off into town. I drank a lot of beer, in fairness.
Yeah.
And had loads of conversations with people about stuff. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, I was ready to go home.
Yeah.
Didn't get on the pitch then?
Do you know why I didn't go on the pitch?
Because a football banning order would be problematic for a commentator.
I feared that outcome. And a pal of mine said to me, "Come on, we're going on the pitch." And he works in the game, by the way, at quite a high level as a coach at a big football club. I said, "No, I don't think so."
Just trying to explain. I'm going to do them off TV. I think the commentary is this.
It'd be better,
year.
wouldn't it? So I didn't go on the pitch, and that was a conscious decision not to do that.
Yeah, I will say, throughout the year, I think you've pretty much always said Leeds will go up, and I think you've talked down Wrexham all year.
That's what you do, though,
whether or not it's been on this show or with just chatting in the office and stuff, I can't remember.
Bargaining.
But is that just? Did you actually think?
No, I didn't. I generally at Leeds, I always did. I can tiny bit more step back up from the and I watched the game with a pro who knows what he's talking about. That's very helpful.
It's been. I've taken real comfort from speaking to Tony in here, as well, when we have done, because he's like, these lads have got it.
Yeah.
So I know that, Tony, and I hear
yes.
you. I hear you.
Logic, yes.
I can hear the noise, but it's
understanding, knowledge, yes. But still, I mean, I've got him a bit because I stopped him looking at the league table at half time. And he did it once earlier this season, a few weeks ago. And he, even as he do it, I saw his look as he caught me looking at the league table at half time. And he quickly turned his phone off and put it down, kind of thing. And like, sorry about that. And so there's a bit of me has damaged him on that basis, I think. But at the end of the day, he will look at it with the sort of cold, clear-eyed vision of the former professional England international and say, no, that they are better than all the rest. They will do this. So that I'm similarly reassured by that kind of, because you need to be, because he knows what he's talking about. Where there's the other thing is me going, I think, without kind of input from other people.
Yeah.
And there's no way actually really that Wrexham should have been promoted automatically, at least this season, because, it's another step up. And the squad's good, and it got better in January, but the squad's good, but they've had to grind out a load of games. So they've been winning in a way that requires them to have a system that gets them to win. So there's been a difference, because I watched Leeds at times terrorise other teams. And again, Bristol City, I mean, the ruthlessness of that performance I actually loved. Like Cardiff, where they are just toying with the opposition here, like a cat with a bird that it's caught. And that the outcome could be anything here, because they're in that place now.
It's flow state.
They're just on it now. Yeah. And the other side cannot live with this. Yeah. So that element of ruthlessness has been absolutely absent from almost any single game of Wrexham's that I've watched this year, because they've had to win in a different way. And so that was maybe where the doubt came from. Having said all of that, in the last game, the key game, they played as well as they played all season. Yeah. So then you've got a few in a group. The group becomes really important. So you've got somebody like James McLean, you've got Jay Rodriguez is there, Matty James is there. You've got a group of really experienced pros who've been in these positions before. I think that's where that becomes important. And that's actually one of the things that Leeds lack. And that's, I think, we've been really, really commendable about what they've done, is that the group is still a really young group.
Yeah.
So when Ethan Ampadu speaks like in sort of Churchillian tones, that's coming from a still young footballer. And Joe Rodon alongside him is a still young footballer. And so the experience there is Bamford and Darlow, Gila Vogie. I think he will have had a big part to play with that as well. But the group on the pitch is a really young group. And I think they've done, so well on that basis.
Ethan Ampadu, for a still a young man, has played a lot of games, though, hasn't he? I mean, you'll know better than me. He's played a lot for Wales as well, hasn't he? So he does have a huge amount of experience.
And I mean, really, and this phrase is a bit rubbish, but, very mature head on pretty young shoulders.
Still only 24, just for the record. 25 in September.
That is. I actually thought he was a bit older than that. Yeah. And that's ridiculous, because that he's been such a good leader for Leeds United.
Yeah, he carries himself. We used to say this about Charlie Cresswell carrying himself with the surety of like a middle-aged man. Ampadu does as well.
Yeah.
And Harry Gray's on the way to it, you would say as well.
He was the other one.
Considering he's legitimately a child still at this point. He's not a young man. He keeps
passing us in our interview position, Harry, to go to his dressing room.
Yeah,
because he can't change with the seniors. So we're seeing that element, as we did with Archie as well previously. But for Archie, it was kind of, we saw it Arsenal happen there, for instance, a cup was that, whatever. So you've got it's a really young group, and they have been, they've been brought together. Manager, coaching staff take great credit for this. They've been kept together, and they've got into that position of we fight together. That thing. They've done that.
Yeah,
I enjoyed watching the footage back. I think it was the Sky footage from the other night I ended up watching back, where they were all celebrating on the pitch. There was the huddle of the players. I think it's Grove, I think.
Called the staff.
Yeah, there's kind of another group. There's the staff, and then there's some other people, family members and stuff as well. And you kind of like, all of you, come on. And you can see they're all actually delighted to have been invited over there. But I thought that was a nice moment that someone took a bit of time to go, why are you stood over there? This is for you as well.
Very human. Yeah. Very human.
Well, yeah, and I think you've seen that in quite a few instances. I mean, there's that lovely Daniel Farker, Eddie Gray hug on the pitch, and those moments are important because they show that there is a human element to all of this. And when there's criticism of players and Illan Meslier, it's quite. It was hard to see Illan on the edge of the celebrations for a lot of this, because record clean sheets this season, and Carl's come in and done a brilliant job, but a lot of those clean sheets were also kept by Illan Meslier. So, he's on the fringes, but the group still wants to bring him in. And Tanaka, did you see the Tanaka interview, by the way?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, man, you've got to see the Tanaka interview.
Speaks English like the best of them.
Oh, impeccable. Yeah. Speaks the Queen's impeccably. Brilliant. I'm divesting. I can't remember the die with it.
Divulging?
Divulging.
No.
Divulging. We went to do that one in the expectation that this was going to be kind of comically bad in terms of I do some, sort of speak slowly and loud.
Digress, by the way.
Digress, that's a good one. I'd speak slowly and loudly, and he would shake his head or whatever. And then I went over and asked my question slow and loud, something like, "How are you feeling?" And he went, "Yes, very good." Yes,
I'm great, cheers, Bryn. Yeah, thanks for asking, mate.
I'm mega, to be honest with you, pal. I'm absolutely buzzing. So it was really, he was great. He was great, right? So, and what was nice, I asked him about the other players, and he said, "Oh, they've been so good to me. They've brought me," and you can see that in the celebrations where like Nonto keeps bringing him into daft dances and stuff like that. And Ramazani's been at the forefront of all of this, and we've barely seen Laji for the last 6 months.
Prior to the Bristol game, his celebration to contribution ratio, absolutely off the chain.
Although his shot ratio, goal to shot ratio is the best in the division, isn't it?
Yeah.
And will be even better now.
And he rocking up in the celebrations with his sunglasses
on.
It reminded me of Flavor Flav. He needed the clock around his neck.
And then he pulled out the dance moves as well post-match. So actually I love all of that, because there's a bit of personality in there. There's a bit of character in there. And they're all comfortable enough in each other's company that you can wear sunglasses, you can pull off a few dance moves, you can do your thing within the group because the group feels comfortable collectively, and that's a really important place for the group, in inverted commas, to be.
I mean, I was not put out's not the right word, but assessing the January window purely from a fan's point of view, very much at arm's length, and felt they should have done something. And I think there's still an argument, even with 93 goals on the board, that they could have added more to it. But I also
firepower.
But I also now understand, ends justifies the means and all that. Why you didn't want to disrupt that? Why Farke was insistent on the harmony in the group being left untouched.
Although he has since thrown a few little comments in about maybe wanting someone. So it's mixed messages, I think, coming from him on that.
I would imagine he probably did want somebody in January. The key is getting the right person. I mean, that's both of those things that you just talked about. That is potentially disrupting the group, but that means that if you do bring somebody in, you've got to be sure that they add to rather than cause an issue with. And so maybe they got to a position whereby they didn't have that, they weren't confident enough in that personality being brought in to not be a disruptive element in some way, shape or form, or in terms of the pattern of play and all those other things that they study these days. The data obviously is key to all of this. So maybe that was another part of the decision-making process.
The intangibles that we can't see.
Yeah. But there are kind of a lot of those these days.
Yeah.
Because and it's a subject for discussion now because recruitment is based on data these days, and people don't go down I've seen him. He looks like the kind of guy for us.
Yeah,
don't really go on that basis.
Which I suppose tees you up for the discussion around Farke, which I feel like I almost don't want to discuss. We've been kind of forced to discuss it because
that's a shame.
It's been forced into the conversation has been forced into the public arena via whatever means. But I just want to kind of let him be a fire beast for a bit. And we'll worry about it. But when
I said to him, "Are you worrying about the title after the promotion had been clinched?" and he said, "No, I'm just going to drink beer after beer after beer, and then I'm going to have some champagne." Yeah, I like that answer. That was a good answer.
Yeah.
They don't teach that on the media modules.
Yeah, you wonder if maybe that's where the clash of ideologies is, if they want to be more data-led, especially because you've got to kind of watch the pennies and pounds because we are hindered from a PSR point of view, going up with 2 years of EFL losses behind us rather than all 3 Premier League years. You know, you're hindered to the tune of £22 million per year, so 44 million in our case. We can't lose 44 million pounds.
Well, these are all the sums that become, you know, they were intangibles, now they're tangibles, you know, because this is all part of the reckoning now.
So they're going to have to be, and carrying some legacy Premier League contracts, careful about where this money goes, I suppose, and they will want to be data-led, and you wonder how that marries up with Daniel Farke's approach to having veto on transfers.
Yeah,
you know?
well, it's actually, whether it's a growing issue in the game, but it's certainly an issue in the game, because we've had a conversation previously about Chris Wilder, and he said he was going to embrace the data signings that the club... He signed a couple of
and
players.
And he's not played either for a minute.
They signed a couple of players in January based on the data, and they, as you say, they've just not appeared. So there is a toing and a froing between 2 kind of ways of doing this currently. And you look at Brighton and you look at Brentford and et cetera, and that's where the people who make the financial decisions, they're going to look at that, because they all require certainty, and they will feel that data provides certainty.
It's another form of Moneyball, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's developed from that concept, hasn't it? The whole thing has. So you make a call based on the data that you've analysed that identifies exactly the model that you want, and then further identifies who fits that model.
Yeah. And
that's who you go after, rather than, I've seen him, he's a good lad.
Yeah.
You don't go on that basis, or if you're down the data route, you don't go down that route on that basis now.
I mean, we're going to see how that all plays out, but to return to Farke and his general unflappability and those comments in the wake of Luton, 100%, you know, convinced that we would be playing Premier League football, and he was right. Thank God he was right.
He's probably saying the same thing himself.
But he deserves, and I feel like, you know, he's always going to compare unfavourably to Bielsa. You know, just from an emotional standpoint, it's always going to be the case. It's just the way it is, and I think he understands that, and I think he embraces it as well to a certain extent. But he always mentions Bielsa. Have you noticed that? Whenever he just touches on it, just saying, you know, we had this great promotion 5 years ago, but there were no fans able to see it under the brilliant Marcelo. He's very, very respectful of that. And I think he deserves a huge amount of credit for embracing it. Of course, he gets paid to do a job, and he's done the job, and that's great. But it's not an easy job. And I think he's absolutely made the most of it this year in what it's a ridiculous football club, isn't it? Let's face it. Yep. It's ridiculous.
Yep. I think, yes, it is.
But it's all the more brilliant for being so ridiculous, and it makes all this better.
So anybody that you bring into that position, which would be, you know, somebody, hypothetically, and it is purely hypothetically because I have no idea, but if you were making the change at this stage, these are the factors, these are actually the intangibles, because there's no data around how do you deal with the Leeds United fan base, right? You can't really do data on that one, because that's the emotional element to this. So you can do the data for the type of player that you recruit, but what you can't do is the person in charge of how they react to, how do they bring everybody together. So there's still a human element to all of this. And I think what Daniel, I really do think what he's done, I think he's man-managed really, really well within this group. And at times, probably to his own detriment, because maybe at times he's been overly protective to a degree, or he's kind of, I mean, I'm thinking of, he decided not to take Elland out the firing line earlier in the season, and it's still being cited as evidence against him by some people. But I think he did that for the right reason. He did that because he wanted Elland to be better, because he knows he's a good goalkeeper. So he wanted him to have the chance to prove that, and then just couldn't do it anymore. But I think he did it from a human perspective, and maybe that's difficult when you are looking at data and stuff like that.
In a results business, it's hard to justify, isn't it, if you don't get the result? But we did.
Yes, and so the outcome, and you know, do you only look at the outcome, or do you look at the process as well? I don't know, but the outcome is exactly what he was tasked to do. In fact, the outcome is significantly in advance of what he was tasked to do, really, because if you look at the numbers again, if you come back to that, then the numbers are record-breaking. So he's done what nobody else has been able to do. Yeah.
So to wrap it up then on this thought, as we head to Plymouth and hopefully returning with a title, so you might get another go at this, Bryn.
Great, go on. I'll spin this one out for another few days. Yeah.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
For Plymouth or for what lies beyond?
Got your Plymouth green on today?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Just from an emotional point of view, have you got anything left in the tank ready for potential celebrations, which we all want to see? I hope so.
There's a little bit left in there, because I would dearly love to see this side lift the trophy. How lucky am I? I am now in the situation of waiting potentially to do this for a second time. So that 2 promotions in 35 years, I think that Daniel's been talking about, 2 Premier League promotions, I should say, in 35 years. I'm the lucky guy who's been in for the first one of them, and now I'm hoping that I'm in there for the second one as well, because it just, that's what, again, to come back to it, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Finishing second is brilliant, and it's absolutely almost job done. But it's actually all about the bit where the trophy goes up and the players have a medal around their necks and everyone gets to celebrate them, and then they go on the open top bus, which hopefully is going to be great on Monday, and LUTV will be covering that, and hopefully I'll be involved in all that. I think I will.
I want you driving the bus.
you definitely don't, by the way. It's too much talent on board for me to crash into a lamppost.
Imagine the insurance.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Imagine the insurance. So that's all. But if there's that trophy at the front of the bus,
it's the physical embodiment. It's the season physical. Isn't it?
That's the proper true reward for what they've done, and they deserve that reward because they've been absolutely fantastic.
I think we all think it's happening, don't we?
It feels like it's happening, given the swaggering, scintillating performances that we've had in the last couple of home games. It feels inevitable in the same way that the Burnley beating Sheffield United felt inevitable. That doesn't mean that it is.
I think it'd be a very different game if Plymouth had something to play for.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, technically, what do they win 14-0? They stay up, don't they?
It's a possibility.
I mean, we only need to put 7 past them to get our 100. So
That's right.
We've done it once this season. Why not? But no, it feels like it feels like it's there to be taken. Hopefully, they can just step up that one last time. And like you said, the determination is there within the squad to do that. I trust them, and that's something you can't always say about your football team over the course of a season, particularly when they wobble. I trust them 100%. If it doesn't happen, fair enough. It'll be a mild disappointment, but we've done the main part of this.
It would feel like a bit of an anticlimax, but I've also enjoyed the past couple of weeks so much.
Yeah,
that's enough. That's more joy than I expect out of a Leeds United season already. So, but let's finish it off.
Champions again, ole ole.
Thank you, Bryn.
The Square Ball Podcast.